All right. Hi, everybody. Mike here. I appreciate you watching and tuning in. Today is the second edition or second video in the series that I'm doing, my workshop in progress series that I'm doing about building my content for an upcoming presentation that I'm giving. I'll be at Macstock in 11 days. According to my flighty widget, tells me I fly out in 11 days, and I have a little bit of time to continue working on this project. And if this is the first video you're watching, what I'm doing here is because of my interest in teaching and training, as well as the technical Mac automation stuff. I am documenting my content creation process, and also as I'm doing that, I'm doing all the work here on camera. Last week or 2 weeks ago, when I did my first presentation or first live stream, I planned out the presentation, which I'll quickly pop up on screen and show you here. I used MindNode and mapped out the presentation. I'm going to zoom out just for a second. And so this is my process for whenever I'm creating any type of live learning event. I do something along these lines to kind of map out the parts that I'm most interested in and making sure that I have all of that content planned out. I spent a whole hour working on this last time, so if you're interested in seeing that thought process, that teacher content creation process of designing a live learning experience, I encourage you to watch that. But for what we're doing today, I'll zoom in over here and just highlight these couple of items here. Excuse me, I got my windows all in the way. These three things: a macro template from Keyboard Maestro, a drafts project template, and a shell script template. These three things are things that I want to create today on camera, and the point of them, the reason I'm creating them, is because I'm going to give them to the people who attend my workshop, and we are going to create an automation that helps them with some type of repetitive project that they have that's digitally based, and they're going to benefit from having this automated path to create all of the digital infrastructure that they need in order to be successful with any type of content creation project. So I use this stuff for during my day job as a technical trainer, when I have to create job aids or asynchronous lessons or videos or things like that. I have different automations that go through and do all of this digital infrastructure. I also use it for the blog posts and the YouTube videos that I create for myself. So what I'm going to do with this presentation, this 90-minute workshop at the Macstock conference, is people are going to come to the presentation and leave with an automation like one of mine, where they can get all their project folders set up. They can get project templates, like their task management templates, created. And basically the idea is, by attending the workshop, they'll leave by being able to click a button, answer a question, and then have all of that tedious digital infrastructure taken care of, so that they can get to creating the content and actually getting the stuff, doing the creative stuff as quickly as possible. That's the goal, is to automate the boring stuff to give people time to create. So that's the idea today. Hoping to do this in about an hour. We've talked for 4 minutes. We'll see exactly how it goes, because part of what I'm doing, I already have all this stuff created for myself, but as part of what we're going to do today, I also need to make sure that what I've created for myself is in a format that's easily manageable for other people, and something that makes the most sense for anybody else to pick up. Practically every one of my automations that I've ever created for myself has been an iterative, like step after step after step, month after month process while I tried to figure things out and iron things out. So like anything that happens that way, any project that's been created that way, there might be a better way of doing it. So that's when I say I'm going to get all this done in 1 hour. We'll see, because I might end up having to restart or rebuild things. But anyway, let's get into it. Today is an unscripted, largely unplanned, just working session where I'm going to walk you through how I create or how I think about these things. If you're watching the recording of this, I'll have chapter markers so you can jump around a little bit. But I'm going to be working live on the stuff that I'm going to be sharing at Macstock. Not the presentation yet. This is just the artifacts that I'm going to share that are going to help with the process of my workshop. So, of these three things, the macro is the Keyboard Maestro macro, and that is what drives the whole thing. That's the engine. The other two things, the drafts project template and the shell script template, are both things that will be run by the Keyboard Maestro macro. So I'm probably going to start, I am going to start with one of these two others, and I'm probably just going to start with the draft project template, because that's kind of the easiest thing to get started, and we'll do that and move on. But if you didn't watch last time, what I'm going to hope that people come with their own project, something they have in mind that they want help building. But I'm going to have a suggestion that if they don't have an idea, I should say, if they don't have something they can do, I'm going to suggest attending Macstock for next year. So that's going to be my backup plan. If somebody just has a automation block, can't figure out what they want to do, too many options, I'm going to give them the suggestion during the session that they just practice by planning on attending Macstock. So that's probably what I'll make most of my automations I'm going to share. I think what I'd want to do, we'll see how it works out once I start doing it. But I think attending Macstock is the example I want to use in the lesson, which is absolutely, that's what I want to do. But I think I'll also build these automations with that in mind, and then people can adapt it to their personal use. So that means attending Macstock, and I want to start with the drafts template. So let me hop over to drafts and clean this up a little bit. Move that out of the way. There we go. So this is an example. I have this little sandbox area set up in drafts for when I'm making YouTube videos and stuff. Here are a couple examples of different TaskPaper templates that I have kind of anonymized, so that, here, let me move my face over to this side so it's a little easier for you to see. Different types of projects that you can create in things from, got a little chat in here. Shrey says, gonna go to sleep, saw your stream as a recommendation. I hope you make the best presentation of your workshop. Will show my support by liking and subscribing. All the very best. Oh, thanks. Hey, appreciate it, Shrey. So what I'm gonna do here, the way this works for me personally is when I like having my project templates in drafts, because it makes it really editable for me anytime. I don't have to worry about like cracking into a shell script and like working on things in there. I just love drafts for everything, so I like to keep my templates in here. And I have a whole video about how I use this on the channel that you can watch the faster version. But this is an example of a TaskPaper template that will run in things and show up in things. So let me show you what this looks like when I run it. And this action here, things parser, is going to take all of this and turn it into a project in things. So if you haven't seen this before, I'm just going to double click on things parser. This will find the names of things. So the person's name, RSVP we'll say is today, and then we'll say 7:30 is the party day. So that pops over into things like this. It shows up here with these different sections, with the dates all planned out, with everything organized. So this is really helpful. I love working with drafts and things, templates like this. So that's what I'm going to share and show people how to set up. I just want to give you context before we actually did that. So here's an example of preparing for a flight, which might be a good thing for me to use as to get people to go to Macstock. All right, so as you can tell, I love checklists, and I greatly benefit from this type of stuff. You might look at this template and say, like, oh my gosh, this person is crazy. Maybe, but I find it to be really helpful. So anyway, let's use this as a template that we can share. So I'm going to switch the title to Attend Macstock. And instead of destination, do we need that there? We can probably take that out for now. And I'm going to remove this emoji. I do have emojis in my things library for my different areas, but to make it easier for people who are going to download this template during the session, I'm going to keep that simple. So area, we'll just keep home. When, let's say, we can show people how the date math works here by having that in place, so that's good. And then we'll just keep this as the flight date. So attending Macstock is the name of the project. And then we might have a section about registration. And then let's delete all these other action items for right now. And then we could say maybe packing. Pack a plain bag. Day of the flight, sure. And then add the conference. So this might be a good start. So attending Macstock, we'll have them, the registration, we'll say we can maybe put in a couple examples for everybody, and then they can obviously move it themselves. But this template sets up pretty nice to show people, like, this is the project, and you can assign dates to things. So this is a good way to show people that component. And then you can have the headings in things, which is really nice. This will show you this will end up showing people like an action item. We're going to Macstock. This is going to be a Mac-centric place. People are going to probably have Flighty if they're traveling and they're Mac people, because it's a very popular app. This will show how you can do like checklists and things. So sure, I'll keep that in there. And then we'll just show like breaking up a couple different items. And this is basically an essential item from mine. My experience, the last item on any checklist is always to update the checklist itself for next time, and we'll show people that link can go in there. So this is probably a pretty good baseline, I think, to show people as a starting point. People could download this, and then they can see a lot of the elements. One of the things I don't have is tags, so I should probably put tags on at least something, because that'll show people how they could apply that elsewhere too. So with TaskPaper and with this thing, oh, hey Sherry, thanks, I appreciate you saying that. Look clean and minimal. Yeah, it took a while to get there, but I find it to be useful. And most of the minimalness part just comes from things being awesome. So, but I'll take the positive comment. Appreciate it. So with the tags here, it's comma separated, and you do it plural if I remember right. So we'll say, I don't know, we'll just put in a couple tags in here. App and travel. Again, I just want to demonstrate to people how this works. I'm not trying to build it for them, but I want to have them to have something when they download it, something that they can see all the components, and then they can copy and paste and build and edit how they want to. Because looking back at my outline for my presentation, we're going to give them 10 minutes to pick a task and think about something, and they'll build out a mind map. And the macro assembly part is just going to be a quick download of the macro that I'm going to make for them. But I'm going to give them 20 minutes to work in drafts, to work on personalizing this template and getting everything all set up. So maybe half of that time they'll actually be writing, and the other half will be working on other stuff. So let me think, is this enough to give? Is this 10 minutes of time? This is probably a good... I think this is good for now. We'll come back to it if we need to, but that's the first item checked off. It took us about 10 minutes to get there. But looking back at what we want to have, a drafts project template for people to download. So this is just plain text. So I'll probably just put it, this is definitely going to be on my website. So I'm going to have a page on my website that people are going to load. I'm just going to be on my welcome screen as people walk into the room, and that's going to be something I tell them to do. Is going to be pull up this website, and I'm going to have everything on there all at once. So this drafts project template is probably just going to be just a clickable code box that people can just copy and put into drafts. So that's probably good. This shows date math. This shows how to use when and do. This shows using checklists. These things, by the way, don't support tags. The items in a checklist and things don't support tags and dates, so that's why I don't have anything on them. We have tags, and this is a note. This is showing notes and links. You know what? I should... Let's put up here... register for Macstock, and then put the Macstock link in here. That'd be a nice little nod to the home page. Boom. Okay, we're going to jump into Claude in a little bit. But let me put that in here. And that needs to be indented over to be under there. Okay, so register for Macstock. That tells them to do that. Yeah. Again, I don't want to put too much time and effort into identifying exactly what they should do. I'm not trying to like be a travel planner for them. The goal here is just to show people this is how this template engine process works, and give them something that they can copy and paste and move around. Okay. So jumping back in, the next thing is the shell script template. So let me think through how this works for me. So when I want this shell script to create for the types of content, for what I use it for and what I'm presenting, you know, I'm creating multiple folders for, like, here's my written content, here's my video assets, here's images. Like, it's a series of like nested folders, create some markdown files, like, so shell script template for attending Macstock, because again, that's the example that I'm working with. Let's say, well, I guess somebody, let's use our mind map here. What would be the folders that somebody needs? Registration paperwork. So that could be like, yeah, let me zoom over here. I'm kind of working left to right, but right to left. Registration paperwork, so that might be also like plane tickets, hotel, rental car. You wouldn't need multiple folders for all those things, but that's the kind of stuff that could go in there. So registration paperwork makes sense to have a folder for registration paperwork. And then let's do like notes, perhaps. From the kids conference, there are talks, there are workshops, so people could do notes, session notes, maybe we could call it, to make that clearer. And then what else would you need? Registration paperwork, session notes. This isn't going to show nested folders, because that is something I use and something I want people to be able to see and encourage people to use. So let's do session notes, and then let's do, it's usually a weekend, so let's put the days in. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay, so I just had those in there to think about what would be in registration paperwork. So the shell script template we could create would show people the template we give them should create registration paperwork and a folder called session notes. So that's a registration paperwork folder, a session note folder, and then inside of that session note folder will be 3 more folders, one for each day of the conference. So that will highlight the things that we need to show, because that's what I appreciate about this registration, or about the shell script, is being able to create nested folders and have my folder structure set up all nicely and exactly how I want it. That's the whole point of it for me, and that's what I'm trying to share with everybody. So I really want to make sure I have nested folders, so I got that. I also like that it creates markdown files. So that we could put a markdown. Does it make sense to to show them? I guess I could show them either place where the markdown file goes. If I either put it in here, and I could do like a travel infrastructure markdown file, or I could make like a little note for like session 1, Friday session 1, and that could be like a markdown file. Now, let's do both. Session 1, markdown file, and travel info markdown file. Okay. So yeah, so let's jump into that markdown, that shell script template. So if you saw on my outline, tools we're going to be using in this session are going to be drafts, which I already showed you, Keyboard Maestro, which I alluded to, things, which I showed you, MindNode, which I'm showing you now, and LLM optional. That is my absolute number one thing that I love with these large language models, and particularly Claude is my favorite, which I popped up on screen for a second because I had it loaded to jump into. My understanding is what this is called vibe coding, I guess, but I have absolutely loved having access originally to ChatGPT, but now I use Claude to do these little things, to help me create little scripts that I always knew were possible, but I never took the time to learn the Apple script or the shell script or the JavaScript, any of them. I never learned. I always took the time to oh, here's something, let me look at it, and it just kind of all blurred together for me. And the questions I had were so low level, basic questions that I couldn't find the answer without take this course. And I just never got around to taking those courses. So, but what has been amazing for me has been, being able to explain to Claude, hey, I want to use Keyboard Maestro. I want to make a folder structure, and I made my folder structure actually in MindNode like this, but and I said, hey, these are the folders I want nested like this. Let's make it. So that's what I have right now is that I use, and I'll show you. Let me jump into Keyboard Maestro finally to show you the shell script that I have. So I took this, so this is a macro that I use for creating my YouTube videos. I duplicated it and put it into a demo folder over here and called it Macstock macro. But how this works is I start by prompting myself for the name of the video. I type the name into Keyboard Maestro, and then it does this title case filtering for me because I like title case for lots of things. And then it uses this shell script to create all of my project folders. I used to do this in Keyboard Maestro with it has its built-in option for building folders, which it worked great for a long time. But I liked doing it in this shell script because I found it to be a little bit easier to tweak and adjust by just being able to say hey Claude, help me fix this. So this is the shell script, and I have this header in here to help me understand it, but also it makes it easy to share with other people so they can adjust as they need to. So this is all just the documentation header, but coming down you'll see that the version I have now that I need to change is all based on me, here's my source material and research folder that I create, and then I create this numbered prefix structure of here's the written content, here's a video folder, and then inside of that video folder I have a camera A, which is this one, and then I have an audio folder and a B-roll folder, which is usually just screencasts, and all that. Here's all the folders that I create for a YouTube video. Well, I should say my shell script creates for me, and then kind of as I work through a project, everything has a place to go. It doesn't just all sit on my desktop. I can drop everything in here in my YouTube thumbnail creation process, which I'm not very good at creating thumbnails, but I'm trying. And so I have a little workflow here for creating those. And then here's the rest of the folder. The rest of the script makes a couple documents for me, a couple markdown files. And then I'm also not good at writing YouTube descriptions, so sorry, we got a thunderstorm rolling through here, so sorry if you hear that in the background. I have Claude read my script and to give me some suggestions for some titles and the video description, etc. So let me copy this shell script out into Claude. And I'll say, oh, and this is another thing that I really love AI for. I use Mac Whisperer for dictation on my Mac, which is amazing. It really helps speed things up. So let me go ahead and share, write my initial prompt. I have an existing shell script that I use as part of a Keyboard Maestro macro. I'd like your help updating the folders that are created by this script and also update the markdown files that are created. Take a close look at the existing shell script and ask any follow-up questions that you have before you begin. The end goal is to share this script as part of a presentation for others to use. So I don't want this script to become too personalized. Let's have it create its folders on the desktop, and let's keep this extensively documented so other users can update it in the future after they download it from me. All right, nice and long prompt. Here is the pasted script. All right, let's go into, now that it's asking us questions, we're going to go into MindNode. Oops, come on. There we go. So I think this is going to work. I want to update this project to instead create a folder structure to provide digital infrastructure for attending a Macstock conference. Here is the mind map that I've created. Each node represents a subfolder of the main project folder, except for the files identified as MD file. Okay, so it came through as a bulleted list. There we go. Oh, we definitely got that translation wrong. All right, so I always find it to be really helpful to address these questions that it has. I told it to ask the questions, but again, it makes it super easy to go through this with using Mac Whisperer to have it update the script for me. So let's say let's put that correction in there, and let me add a new line, and then I'm just going to answer each of the questions as we go through here. This is mainly for demo purposes, so let's create numbered session folders for each day, but let's limit it to 2 session folders per day. People can adjust as needed after they see the script example. I like the idea of including those extra things, but let's keep the script simple for now, and just with what people can see, they should be able to add anything that they'd like in the future. Let's not add any other folders for now. For the travel info markdown file, the things you identified make a lot of sense, and I think that's fine. Same thing for the session markdown files. I like the idea of having this specific conference identified with a year. I think this conference registration opens up the same year as the actual conference, so when the script is run would be the year that the file should identify. We'll identify through the Keyboard Maestro macro the name of the conference, and that'll become the TCT variable. I guess we'll keep the year creation out of the script just so it's not confusing. I don't think we need to add example content to the templates, but definitely add the structured information that you identified with markdown headers. All right. So again, I find it really helpful to answer all of its questions, and by doing it via the voice dictation, that makes it super easy. And so now we're getting my updated script documentation at the top. And then here comes the actual script. Okay, so it's adding in things I didn't ask for, like packing lists, but that's fine. All right. Excellent. So we're going to copy that out into Keyboard Maestro. This is my Macstock macro, so I'm going to go ahead and replace the text that's in there. Now, I do have, recently I've been playing with Obsidian. So I do have it creating from my YouTube creation. I do have it working with Obsidian files. I'm thinking I'm going to remove that for now, but perhaps share it as something like a bonus or something that people could talk about at the conference, or we could share at the conference. So I'm going to remove that from this example. Yeah. I used to have this like elaborate function in here that I still have deactivated just so I didn't lose it from my other macro for like getting the Google Drive folder structure, because these folders are created in Google File Stream, and then I was going into Google Chrome and opening the folder and like searching and finding the files and all that. It was helpful, but it's just Google Drive kept updating like their stuff and it would break all the time, so I'm going to delete that from now. And so for my video work, I do have it creating a mind node, just a blank new document titled with the name of my video project. I don't think that's necessary here for traveling to Macstock, so I'm going to take that out. And then I also have this action for creating a new blank draft for my video script that I'll take out as well. Like I said at the beginning, this is an elaborate, like I've built an elaborate system over time, and this one makes more sense, I think, to share with people. We want to pare it down as much as possible, and then then people could take it and then expand it how they want to expand it in the future. But this is something that we are going to want to keep, because this opens the draft, and this link is to the template in drafts. So going back to drafts, one of the things I love about drafts is that every draft has a UUID, and you can link to that, and that's what I use down here. That's not going to translate well to other people because, again, it's a UUID, it's a unique identifier. So we need to, what's better? Have it in there and have people remove it. I think in here, yes. But in here, I think I just want to remove it. Because how this works is this takes the template from things and it copies it to the Keyboard Maestro, a named clipboard called TaskPaper template. And then what this action, the next one, does is it creates the project, this whole group. It will create the project. So it pulls open drafts again, but then in here what it does is it looks through that named clipboard and adds in all of the tokens that I need it to add. So the tokens are things like, in this case, this would be the name of the conference. This is the only token I have in here, would be the video topic, which we should call conference name. And this is conference name. What conference are you going to? But we also, because this template is using, okay. I'm realizing I didn't pick a great example for these two videos to work together. So this script uses the mustache prompt, or uses things parser. And that's the thing where if you double click on it, it's going to ask you for, in this case, it's going to ask you for the flight date. And if I answer that question, it makes a project in things. Because it's specifically using the date option. But I'm making my Keyboard Maestro macro, this is a version I've done in the past, is doing all of that date collection in here. I'm going to have to think about that. What's going to be the best way? Because I can open, here, let me, I have a little keyboard shortcut here to get the UUID from a draft. So let me pop over here and let me just show you how that works. So if I do this action, open the draft, it pulls up this draft. And then if I take out date, it just has a text box here. This is the troubleshooting part of creating an automation chain like this when you're using Keyboard Maestro to tag things together. So Keyboard Maestro is going to make our folders for us and make a couple notes for us. And now we want it to make the project. And the things engine, like the thing that I use with things parser and mustache prompt, those two actions and drafts, I love those and I use those all the time. And I've done it with Keyboard Maestro, so maybe that's what I want to do. So this would copy all that to the clipboard. And then so what we'll do is this flight date variable, by having these curly brackets around it, that's what tells things parser to look for a mustache prompt, or that's why it brings up the question. But if we take those out, so let me just do a search and replace, take those out and replace them with nothing. Let me do the other side. Replace that with nothing. So if this is the template, I need to put a variable in up here for flight date. Is that the same? Yeah. And then Keyboard Maestro likes there to be parentheses, or not parentheses, percentage signs around that. So let me find that and replace it with parentheses like that. No spaces though. Okay, replace all, done. All right, so I've definitely run Keyboard Maestro macros like this in the past. I got to remember to make sure I set it up right. But this would keep all the prompting in Keyboard Maestro. Oops. And then we'd create a new document. We'd process this TaskPaper template. We'd create a new document. We'd paste that in, and then we would use, this option goes to the actions, to the task management submenu, and then and it clicks things parser. Okay, so let's test this. We're coming up on an hour. We've created our shell script. We've updated our template. What I don't remember is if doing it this way needs space in between that for the date math or not. So let's see. This script, by the way, is designed, I told it to create a file on the desktop. Yeah. So let's see. Macstock macro, let's run it. All right, so conference name, we'll say Macstock 2026. The flight date for that, oh, that's my little, why doesn't that run in there? That's my little macro for putting in dates, but let's say 2026-07-01. Not sure what it's going to be next year. Let's see if this works. Okay. All right. So that all happened really fast, but I have a document here. There's my items, my action in there. Awesome. And then let's see if I have attend Macstock. Is that in here? Attend Macstock. Okay, those dates didn't quite work, but there's 2 in here. I don't know why there are 2. All the information came through except for the dates are wrong. So let me delete that. Let me delete that. So let's figure out why that didn't work. Let's try taking out the date math for now. And let's try that again. Didn't get our name, a number in there either, did it? Mac Stock 2026 didn't come through. And then 2026, oops, 2026. Okay, 10 Macstock didn't come through at all that time. It is making it here to the clipboard. We did make a new document. We waited for 5 seconds. Oh, did we wait for 5 seconds? We probably don't need to wait for 5 seconds. Let's try to run just this one. Things parser is not liking something here. So we look in the action log real quick. Undefined. Okay. It got canceled. Why did it get canceled? So let's switch this to TaskPaper. Where is it? That'll help us check this out. So our lines are all formatted correctly. Everything's showing up correctly. Interesting. Let's cancel out of that. This is the fun of creating something on a live stream. You're trying to figure out the troubleshooting process. All right, let me pop into an example of a things template that uses dates and Keyboard Maestro. Is there one? Do I have one still? I'm just popping out of the screen share just for a second because I'm going to scroll through a couple that are going to have specific details in there. So let me just see. Oh, I remember at least that part. All right, so not Keyboard Maestro. This thing's parser much prefers this natural language version like this. So I was doing flight date. What I should, if I was doing flight date -7, what it should be is something like 1 week before flight date. So having that language in there made it happier. Has made it happier in the past. Let's see if that works. Still not running. Oh, well, now it's not going to work. Okay, that's dumb. That's dumb on me. That's not working because there's probably because I didn't put in the variables and it doesn't like that. It doesn't have I'm like telling it it's going to be a date, but then that date isn't actually there. Maybe that's why. All right. So I'm going to disable the folder creation because we don't need to be keep testing that. Okay, so we're just going to test. We're going to test this macro without the folder creation. So conference name, Macstock. Still not getting the number in there, so we'll figure that out. But 2026-07-01. That's still not working. So we're at an hour, and I'm going to need to do some more research here and try to figure out exactly why this isn't working. But let's briefly go over the couple things that we were able to get done. So we have a new macro. I was able to update this part for the conference name, but let me update this little group. Conference info. We were able to create a shell script that people will be able to use as their example. We created a template, but that template isn't quite working yet. I got to figure out the right path here for the automation. Either I think I want to keep it in Keyboard Maestro, keep all the prompting in Keyboard Maestro and have it work all in here. But I got to test out and make sure I get it to work right. So I'll have to look at some of my other automations that use this way and remind myself about what I did in the past to make that work correctly. But I think this template, once I get the dates and once I get it working correctly, I think this is a good starting point. You know, it's not a full complete option, but I don't want to give somebody that. I want to give easy things for people to be able to add, where they can say, like, I have registered for Macstock, and I didn't say this out loud, but I kind of intentionally left off things like getting a hotel and getting a rental car, but had like a random specific thing in there, like forwarding flight information to Flighty. So that's hopefully gives people easy things that they can add quickly so they can have some success quickly, but also gives them a couple things to think about that might prompt them to do more, like to add more stuff they wouldn't have initially thought of. So I think this template is a nice balance between let's show you all the different features and get all those features working correctly, and then let's but give people space to expand and personalize. So I think this is a good template to start to hand out. And I just got to work on getting that last part figured out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up the live stream now. I'll do a little bit of research and then test it and get it working, and then I'll start our next presentation with that solution. So I'll leave you on a cliffhanger, I guess, unintentional, but next time I have 11 days before the presentation, and the things that remain on the list for me, in my mind, I want to flesh out the last parts of my outline, my story, right? So if we go back to the presentation file, this whole thing that I worked on in my first video, I want to go through, now that we've made some stuff and now that I've thought more about it and worked more with it, I just want to go through this one more time and make sure that the whole thing makes sense to me. And then I also need to create the visuals and create the website that goes with this. So the page on my website that's going to have all the materials on it. So I got more content creation to do, but that'll be in future videos. But obviously it will happen sometime in the next 11 days. So I hope you found this interesting in some way, or maybe thought-provoking. I love talking about both automation and learning. Last time was really learning heavy. This time was more, let me play with these automation tools and try to get something set up. But if you've ever seen my other videos, my edited YouTube videos, and thought I made everything look easy, that's because I did a lot of this stuff that I'm doing live on camera, all that troubleshooting and like figuring things out. That's all part of the process, right? I've never had an automation work perfectly the first time I did it, even assisted by an LLM to create shell scripts. There's always more work to do. There's always troubleshooting. There's always steps to take. So hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better that this stuff, if you've ever had frustration with working with these things and them not working, happens to everybody. Even people who make YouTube videos about automation have these troubles too. So, but thanks for watching. The next video, I'm not sure when it'll be, but I'll definitely have another one soon. So keep an eye on the channel. If you subscribe, I think you get those notifications. Well, I guess you got to hit the bell, right? But you'll see the next video show up on there. But again, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.